Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. I'm doing a video today about the very controversial YouTuber Styxhexenhammer666. And I will just have to say that I have been following his channel probably for only about 7 or 8 months. I think I'd seen stuff by him before, but kind of got sucked into some of his stuff. Now I take it with a grain of salt. This is the thing. So I know that I have my own opinion that's based on my, the things that I research and looking into things on my own. So whether I watch Kyle Kalinske or Jimmy Dore or Styxhexenhammer or whoever, I try to come to my own conclusions by researching things and reading about things myself. That said, I do not agree with him on Trump. I do not agree with him on the election. Well, with a little asterisk, as he likes to say. I do think the Democratic Party is corrupt and has pushed out third parties. Both parties have. The real election fraud that I got mad at was taking the Green Party off the ballots at several junctures. The Democratic Party did, which to me is basically, to me that's not democracy. Taking a party off the ballot. To me, I cannot support the Democrats any longer at all, and I can't support the Republicans or Trump either. I support the Libertarian Party and the Green Party and the third parties that are in existence. So that said, I do take all these people with a grain of salt, or these media sources or people that are commentators. Now, I do like a lot of his content. I find him funny. I bought a couple of his occult books. I find him to have a unique, interesting perspective. Now, at the same time, I don't endorse some of his associations. I will not endorse certain people that he is involved with or certain things. Now, at the same time, also, and I could be attacked for saying that kind of stuff. I mean, as far as from his fan base or him or whatever. Now, that said, I do support his embrace of all tech, which I have been embracing as well, because I've seen the censorship. So, I mean, I might have differences with him, and I might have differences with Kyle Kalinske. I don't like his association with TYT or, some of those people. So I could agree to disagree with some of these people and with some of the things they say. Now, with regards to Styxhexenhammer, there is a lot of very controversial, there's been some very controversial things that in Rational Wiki and stuff like that. This video poses the question, is he a Nazi? Now, you could probably guess that what I will say, because I will say that I am of Jewish descent in part, and I do not endorse Nazis. Now, the Nazi thing has been thrown around, though, by people on the right and the left for a while as a slur, and it's almost become meaningless at this point. You call someone a Nazi for having a certain belief. I just like to use the word authoritarian or racist or whatever. I mean, it's become like racist. So to me, anybody that supports the genetic, it doesn't mean that, okay, so genetic differences between races or whatever, is that racist in itself? Well, in itself, it is racist if you believe in superiority of one race or another. That, to me, is the definition. Of course, there's these dictionary definitions versus what's the modern woke definition of racism. So I don't really care about that. I care about the dictionary definition, how I define it. If they say I'm being racist by not defining it in the modern way, then so be it. I'm not racist. But I do at the same time think everybody has a little bit of racism in them, unfortunately. So do I think, have I seen, I haven't watched all the old Styxhexenhammer videos, But as far as all the videos I've watched this past year or so that I've been watching, have I seen anything that hints at racism? Well, it depends on your definition. Now, we could separate these things into right wing, usual right wing tropes, which arguably you could say are racism, or are they at least ignorant of racism, or are they trying to associate things with different ideologies? Now, I know that he's not fond of a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests and Antifa and stuff like that. So, but I'm not going to automatically assume that's a racist position. Now, I find it to have to have a lack of nuance with regards to those things, and I'm not saying that he has a lack of nuance, is a little bit, to me, it's a problematic thing as far as I don't agree with him on that point, but I wouldn't say that automatically, just like it's like saying all Republicans are racist because they don't support welfare. Nobody is consciously saying, these people aren't consciously racist. Of course, they might support some racist policies, police, from the police, like, police racial profiling or something like that. That doesn't mean the person doing the actual implementing the policy might be, or pushing that might be racist or have some, unconscious bias, which I do believe in. But I don't necessarily think that people supporting the policies are all racists or consciously thinking of how they're superior to another race. So I'm going to strike down that idea of him being racist in that case and just say that he is he agrees with something, or his belief is something I don't agree with in regards to that particular factor. Now, he has talked about how police are corrupt and police are using excessive force in many situations, and there is a real issue. Now, I'm going to give him kudos for that because that is the truth. We can de-racialize some of these aspects in some ways at times. That's a very libertarian position. I think Rand Paul's come out and talked about that as well, and people like that, as far as the drug laws and so forth, which I feel like are part of the problem with this country is the drug war. One of the problems. So I'm going to say that does not, the people that call him a Nazi, as far as that particular issue, that is just a typical right wing, those typical right wing ideas that are not, that I will not associate with racism or Nazism at this juncture. Of course, we can argue all day whether or not these things are racist inherently or not, but at this point, I don't think that the people that are calling him a Nazi have a point, and that's with regards to that. Now, as far as problematic old videos, I've watched a couple of them, and some of them, yeah, they were taken out of context. So I think a lot of people, like I've seen over the last 5 to 7 years, a lot of left-wing outlets such as Daily Beast, Huffington Post, Vox, what's that other one? It's just, there's many of them that are around, and they do take things out of context. I'll give you context. I'll give you an example. So they will, so we're talking about the manosphere, the pickup artist thing, right? They will take some kind of statement by one of these guys, these pickup guys, and say that they're advocating rape when they're not. Or for example, like I talked about before, when the guy had the school, I think he was a school shooter in Indiana or something like that. He had an Iron Cross on his jacket, and he was called a Nazi for having an Iron Cross. But he also had like a hammer and sickle. And I'm gonna have to do some research. I'll probably try to put it in the description of the video, this article, or the guy, the Wikipedia about the guy. So people automatically assumed, oh, he's wearing a German symbol, he's a Nazi. And the Daily Beast basically said he's probably a racist Nazi because he had an Iron Cross. I'm just like, this is the dumbest laziest journalism I've ever done. West Coast Choppers had shirts at JCPenney. I actually have this like shirt with Iron Crosses on it, like skulls or something. It's like very common symbol, in the mid 2000s that people were using. on because of West Coast choppers, because just, for whatever reason, it is a little edgy. There's no doubt about that. But Nazi, come on. So we can take those videos that he did, Styxhexenhammer, and say, well, he's making certain points. Now, about the Holocaust revisionism, that gets into some dangerous territory. I think at a certain point he might have been I would say he was at least downplaying some things as far as what I've read. I would have to look into, these videos are like over 10 years old. Now, this is where we get into the territory where I'm trying to make of the point of where I'm trying to make which I'm trying to make in this video. And I don't think, and I think he's actually addressed this, and he uses enough this is the thing. So anecdotally, he's used enough like comparisons with Nazis with his metaphors and stuff to know that I don't think he's actually a Nazi or supporter of National Socialism, or even, and he's even argued white ethno-nationalists enough to say that he's definitely not into that ideology. Now, that said, this is where the territory where I'm trying to go here. Anton LaVey actually I believe he did an introduction for a new version of Might is Right in the 90s or 2000s. And that's Ragnar Redbeard, who's, believes in social Darwinism. The far right has always, not always, but has had a dalliance with occultism, and particularly the Church of Satan, for a long time. And I know Styxhexenhammer at one point was, quote unquote, a Satanist, I guess. As far as, I haven't done enough research about his opinions of LaVey and stuff, but this has been a thing for years. So in the 90s, I got into a lot of the black metal scene, and for shock value and then some, a lot of those people were into some of the iconography and a lot of the some of the social, at least the social Darwinist leanings of some of these Nazi types, anyways. So, and even some of them were contradicting their own heritage. Anton LaVey was never into Nazis, but he talks about like the concept in some of his books of someone that contradicts themselves as like the ultimate satanic, like satanic ideal, like you're a Jewish Nazi, communist, Zionist, like doing all these contradictory things all at once. It's kind of like one of the things that he talks about, because Satanism in its inherent meaning is actually pretty, it strives to be transgressive and kind of just shatter a lot of these intellectual constructs in a certain way, but by embracing extreme or transgressive or very taboo, shocking things. And that included like a lot of these things. I remember reading these interviews with these like Death Industrial and like underground, like, what's that record label? Some of these artists, these neo-folk, neo-pagan kind of artists that were definitely leaning on that side, but it's ridiculous to call someone like Boyd Rice, for example, a Nazi when when it's just this exploration of all these ideas that are taboo and all these topics and ideas and all these things that are trying to embrace this kind of transgressive thing in your life and society to achieve some type of transcendence above it all. That's what I believe is the at root of a lot of this stuff, exploring these different ideas. Now, I don't know Tarl Warwick or, aka Styxhexenhammer666, but I know that this was a thing in the 90s and 2000s to sort of flirt with some of these ideas. So like his book review on Amazon from 13 years ago or whatever about supposed, black Nazis or whatever, or his downplaying the numbers or whatever that died, or some of these controversial things. I see it as kind of this youthful flirtation with some of these ideas that even some bands I listen to kind of did, but would probably disavow now, or not really be proud of now necessarily. But I see that as probably at the roots of what is going on, what went on with him, or what was going on. And we can separate that from his embrace of Trump or right wing politics, because the problem is, if you call all Trump supporters Nazis, um, or all Republicans Nazis, you're going down a slippery slope where, anything that's right of a certain arbitrary divide in the political spectrum is going to be seen as Nazi, or seen as racist, or whatever. And I think that's very problematic, and I think it's very it's not a place where we want to go. And that's where we're going a lot of places with censorship and so on. Nobody wants to have a debate. Nobody wants to have uh, like a good look at these issues and these ideas, because they don't want to go down that route. Now, like I said, I don't think anything I've seen Styxhexenhammer do in the last few years, at least, really comes close to any kind of ethno-nationalist Nazi ideal. Some of the right wing tropes that he recycles, or explores, are just right wing tropes. I mean, you could watch it on Steven Crowder. Racism doesn't exist anymore. Change my mind. Stuff like that. I disagree with that, but that doesn't mean that Steven Crowder is inherently a racist or a white supremacist for not believing that racism exists. It's just a cognitive bias that arguably can lead to these ideas and so forth. But I don't see Styxhexenhammer as being that type of person that is a racist at this point in time in his life. That does not mean that he didn't explore some of these taboo extreme subjects in the past, like a lot of former Satanists or Satanists do, because that's kind of the thing that has been part of that. Anton LaVey included. He made friends with these weird type of occultists that were dressing like Nazis, essentially, back in the day, even though he was of Jewish descent, So and then his daughter kind of got involved with some of that stuff too, and they had a falling out, and with the whole she joined the Temple of Set. That's Zena LaVey, Zena Shrek. And I know, actually, Six Hammer's talked about the band she has with her husband or whatever. So yeah, it's obvious that he was like into some of that stuff, and that was just a thing, and that influenced a lot of popular culture, for better or worse. I mean, I'm sure, like, I think Marilyn Manson was probably influenced by some of this stuff. He made it, Marilyn Manson made it in more of in a pop way, but I'm sure he was, especially if you actually, now that I brought up Marilyn Manson, if you listen to his early demos in the late '80s, early '90s, they're way more hardcore than anything he did, once he hooked up with Trent Reznor, which is pretty interesting. I'd probably prefer to listen to his early demos than anything else. Little elitist thing I had to say, but I respect Marilyn Manson. I would actually, hang out with him and talk to him and stuff. I don't really like his albums, but so I saw Marilyn Manson open for Nine Inch Nails back in '94. It was the oldest ticket I still own, actually, the oldest ticket stub. And I didn't really like his act that much. It just reminded me kind of it was missing something for me, and that's just me, that's just like my bashing of a certain band on recent videos that people were going really crazy over, which I was surprised by. But that's what I got to say about that. So, in conclusion, these subjects are really complicated. The left and right likes to oversimplify things way too much nowadays. But especially the left, they like to oversimplify things, lack the nuance, and avoid the nuance for their agenda, for these blogs and all these stupid fucking, you know, commentary shows that are basically comedians that are doing commentary. I mean, it's half you've watched half the left wing shows, not the or liberal shows, not left wing, because I'm going to separate those two. Because Kyle Kalinske in a recent video did, and I think well, let's just not confuse the two terms. These liberal shows that are coming out, that have come out, the Colberts of the world, and all this stuff. These are all comedians doing commentary. Bill Maher, I mean, who would have thought that those are the experts of politics these days? It's kind of ridiculous if you think about it. It's like, let's say all the right wing talk shows were former or active country musicians. That would be hilarious, because it'd be the same thing as all these comedians trying to do all this political commentary. But I'm going way off the chart here. So the answer to is Styxhexenhammer666 a Nazi is no. That's all.